Welcome everyone. This is same image, different story. Why Drupal needs contextual here. I recognise that AI is using the term context slightly differently to the way we are using it, but this is contextual media architecture in Drupal. Why we need it. This is us. I'm not going to read this out, isn't it?
Some of you may know who we are or not. What's more important, I think, is how we know each other.
Yeah, we're subject matter experts, apparently.
We first met during the Starshot initiative. Gareth was accessibility track lead, and I was
accessibility tools.
Okay, and I was I don't know the official title,
media.
But the media side of Drupal CMS.
And very kindly, Jamie's hiding me there, and then Tony put this in of me so that I got a picture up on the screen as well. All the slides are being turned into PDF, so if you want them, they're there. I can email anybody that needs them later. And then what we're going to cover today is the problem that we're kind of looking at right now. This is a bit of a different talk. This isn't us telling you what brilliant stuff we've done. This isn't going to be a brilliant way of doing things or anything like that. Unfortunately, we're just highlighting problems today, and we're kind of opening up to the community to say there's a problem that needs to be solved. Let's see if we can solve it.
It's a thought exercise, and through the process of we presented at Drupal Camp Scotland at the end of last year, and through the process of putting together slides and talking about the problems, we started to come up with some solutions. So we're going to kind of share the
ideas,
the process and the ideas, some solutions too.
Yeah. So this is what we've kind of boiled it down to. The media module was introduced way back in Drupal 8, and media library obviously came after that, and it brought promise of being able to reuse images everywhere. Have one image, use it everywhere. This is your slide. So this is obviously Sean Ryder. We picked a different character from the Scotland one. He's a Salford man.
Yeah, this was a Scottish footballer in Scotland.
It was.
Which localised. And for me, this kind of illustrates the journey of discovery that I've been on with how we should think about alt text. So this is an example where if you're doing really well, you might get some parroted alt text that just describes what's in the image. So in this case, a man in a green jacket holding a microphone. But
that's pop. That's popping something.
But if we're talking to somebody next to us and describing what's in that picture, we would never say that. We would say that's Sean Ryder out of the Happy Mondays, or if we are in the context of I'm a celebrity, get me out of here, the king of the jungle or something like that. So we would be a lot more contextual in how we describe that image. So if we don't put that in the alt text, then people who can't see that image don't have that information, and they have a robotic experience.
So we're not the first people to stumble across this idea that alt text is contextual. This is accessibility training provided by Princeton. John Jameson, who did the Editorial module, does this training, and you can see there that this mountain ridge with lots of people on it has very different kind of alt text depending on the story that's trying to be told. It's not just Princeton, there's Harvard doing the same kind of thing. One image, two different use cases, and I kind of created a wee demo of this based on trying to recreate those two Harvard stories. So we'll go in. This is Drupal CMS as it was. You can see that it's quite easy to add alt text. I'm using the focal point module there. just to kind of highlight the fact, because obviously when you see this image, you're not going to be able to easily tell what the alt text is on the front end, but Focal Point has the same problem. You can see there that the image is focused on the students. The second blog post is actually more about the building that's behind the students. And you can see, all right, I'm reusing the same image from the media library, put some different stuff in, and that video is not showing up on that screen. You can see that it's still using the original Focal Point, but if I want to change the alt text to make it more about the building, change the focal point, you'll see that, yeah, the focal point has changed, the alt text has changed, but if we go back to the beginning, it's actually changed it in both places. So you can't reuse that image ultimately. What we saw in the demo was the ability to reuse images, but updating the alt text changes it everywhere ultimately. Yeah, and there's just for reference what I used for the alt text, and I also used the AI alt text generator just to generate some alt text, and it gave us, I think it picked up that there were students at the front because I had maybe done this a few times, and it maybe took the context from the original alt text perhaps, I'm not sure, but it recognised there were students, recognised there was a big red dormitory at the back and trees. So anyway, yeah. So the current workaround to get around needing different alt text or different focal points is that we upload the same image in multiple times so that you can have your list looking nice with the same image, but just different focuses, different alt text. And that means your media library ends up looking a wee bit like this, just lots of the same image over and over again, reused, which kind of brings us back to that idea that, the promise was we could reuse these images, but we're still just uploading them loads of times. So it's same issue we had before, just a new tool to use it. And then people are asking about decorative images. There is use cases for decorative images. Perhaps if you've created a nice border using those images, you might not want to have them have an alt text. You don't want a screen reader reading out 50 bits of text that just says arrow left or loads of times or whatever. So there is use cases for that. And there's a solution for that as well. You've got this wee alt text tool that you can click decorative image, and that disables the alt text bar, and so you get no alt text. But back to the original problem, if you do that too often, your image library ends up looking like this, where editors that need screen readers and are using your media library end up having no clue what image to pick because there's no alt text anywhere. Kind of more generic alt text doesn't always help, because the alt text used in one place may not always help. For example, these are all images of handsome men with grey hair and beards. We're not that vain. It's these people. But you can see that a more descriptive image and a more specific alt text might help a screen reader user in that scenario figure out that it was maybe somebody like Idris Elba or whoever those people are. Anyway, yeah. And then we've got Canvas, and that promises lots of kind of new stuff. But as you will see, it's still using the media library. It's doing it. Yeah, same tools behind the scenes. We could potentially have a scenario where you've got props and slots that take, alt text, but I think ultimately it will still be editing the media entity itself rather than doing that kind of override. So same thing, recognize it from the last video. Yeah. And you started talking at this point, didn't you?
Did I? So this isn't a new problem, and in fact, people have been trying to solve this problem in Drupal for a very long time, and this particular issue illustrates that point perfectly because it was actually postponed 4 years ago. So the work was going on and discussion was going on before that. 4 years ago, they said we need a plan here because there's all these different elements and considerations with how we can solve this problem. We need a plan. So I think what might be best is to postpone this issue. So my journey really has been one of understanding something, then being confused by a new input, a new context, a new use case, and trying to figure out how to fix it for that use case, and then a bit more clarity, and then more confusion, and that process is probably still unfolding. But I think over months, it's becoming more clear. Just as ideas for what direction we could go in to solve this. Defining best practice and approach is really, really difficult because I think a lot of us are not even clear on the end goal of what we want to achieve. And I think this is going to be a non-linear process for us. So this isn't going to be like a linear project where we create something, we can test it, and we deliver. We're gonna go in circles. So this illustration from the interaction design foundation kind of illustrates that journey quite nicely. And the reason it's not easy for us to define a best practice is that even within the same source, I believe, there is conflicting information. So in the example here, we have a very literal description, which is a prison governor and 2 prison officers are conversing in a hallway. They are smiling. There are all sorts of opening up the context. This globe icon could mean all sorts of different things. So if we just say that's an icon of the world, what's actually useful for people might be that it represents international students. It's a region selector. It represents global shipping or global offices. So the context where we use this is really important. Just a quick overview of the research and discovery process. In Starshot, we did some questionnaires and got feedback from the community, but it was mostly kind of biased because it was the Drupal community giving us feedback, but still we got a lot of useful information from that, and people were highlighting this as one of the number one kind of problems with Drupal. And there we go. People are talking about the entity system as a real kind of pain point in Drupal for using media. And then in local gov Drupal, we've also been trying to solve this problem. So I've been talking to some of these people, Brighton and Hove City Council, Agile Collective, Hammersmith and Fulham and Chicken, to see how they solve this problem, and to talk through the problem and possible solutions. And we asked the local gov Drupal community, and they told us they struggle with image sizes, with cropping, with navigating the image library, with alignment and with optimization. So we want to take all these things into account. And we also did a little bit of competitor analysis. Should be a video. So in this example, I played with some with different systems to see what they do. And in this example, I think the picker for aspect ratios is really good and really usable. And there are some other tools that we could incorporate in Drupal, like being easily adjusting brightness and contrast and those kinds of things. But there are also a lot of things here that I don't think we should go as far as in Drupal, because we don't really, I don't think we should be a fully featured image editor. So here's an example of AI editing, I believe. And after a very, very long time, we'll get to see the result.
We should have sped this up, shouldn't we?
That's not really much good to us. So obviously we'll want to think about where we're going in terms of AI integration with our image tooling, but I don't think this is the problem necessarily that we want to solve today. But aspect ratios is a big thing when we're considering how this all fits together, because the aspect ratio that we choose for an image affects the alt text that we might use for it. And what it can do is change the context of that media item in a different place. Front end performance as well. This is an example of how a homepage hero has been designed to use a smaller image so that we're not downloading huge images and using lots of data and resource. And similarly, this one highlights another problem when we're talking about Canvas. How do we detect that we're in a grid, so we want to serve a smaller image? So container queries and media queries can picture sizes can help us with that.
Because image cache, for example, would have that image size, but then how do you make sure that your responsive image responds to not only the media that you're in? If you're in a full screen browser, it might give you quite a big image, but then if that image is actually a part of a 7-grid column system, it can't go, I'm in a 7-grid, I'll give you a smaller image there. So there's in-page context as well.
So I'm just going to quickly skip over this one. This is just an example of how this was feedback from the Starshot survey. And I wonder if we got the results about image tools because people are feeding back on the tools that they use because they're available, and not necessarily the tools that we've imagined, the things that we could create that aren't available to us at the moment.
It's me. So there is a solution, and going back to some of the original issues that are on Drupal.org, there's been suggestions about various things that you can do. And certainly the module cocktail that's come off the back of the media library stuff means you have 6 modules there to get that. And if you like image widget crop, there's a similar solution there as well. I'm not biased as to what I use Focal Point myself, but I know image widget crop's used in Drupal local gov Drupal. So this is me doing this similar kind of demo. This time I'm just going to upload an image once, put in some alt text, generic alt text to cover that particular use case that's described the image quite well. I'm going to recreate the Spring is Here one, use that. I think that alt text was okay for that first use. The image needs to be edited so I can get better alt text. And this is where AI would need to step in and need to know what the story was that I was using. But you can see that the focal point is picking the correct focus there, and it gives you the nice image which we had originally. But then when I try and do the second one, you're going to reuse the same image. And just create my article, highlight the problem still there. Yep, it's the wrong focal point. So change the alt text and move the focal point a bit. There we go. And now we have that article, and the articles are correct as they should be. So it works, maybe. So yeah, in the demo, we saw the ability to actually reuse images using contextual overrides rather than editing the entity itself. And this would work for decorative images as well, because the decorative image flag goes on the contextual use of the entity and not the media itself. So it leaves the default intact, which means if you go to the media library, you've got a really descriptive alt text, and then you can call Sean Ryder a hero or a villain in 3 different blog posts. But the issue that we've run into with this is that's quite clunky. 6 modules just to do that isn't great. There's language nuances around how do you convey to somebody that you're editing the entity or the override, and lots of different kind of bits and bobs for that. Can't remember what this slide was about. But yeah, this is one way, I guess, of showing that you're affecting the non-overrided image of the usage of this image. And then if you edit it, who reads warnings? Nobody. There is use cases like this in views. It's an established kind of use case that you have this block override or revert to default. So that kind of thing exists within the Drupal sphere. And if we could apply it to this, then that would be a brilliant kind of add-on to this solution. Trying to lean into design patterns that we already use, which might be quite nice.
So we do have a solution for alt text, which is that module cocktail, and we could improve that and work on that and move that into core. But just to open another can of worms.
This is this confusion you were talking about. As soon as you think you've solved it, you go, oh, but what about that use case? Oh, that doesn't work there.
So this next stuff is kind of relatively new in the last few months, thinking about it this way. So what about other contextual entities? And this illustrates a curveball. So there are loads and loads of cases of this where a block being shown in different places is a different context. We might want heading levels to change in different places so that our markup is structured properly. Meta descriptions are a case where we have probably one field for meta description that we're using in lots of different places. So on the page, perhaps as a summary, Open Graph, Google search results might get that field. The home page might use that summary to link through, and a parent page might have a link and summary. So we have a case in that a case of that in Open Graph Drupal. Again, what about headings in the body field? How could we control those? Views. So this is a problem of revisions and languages, and it's kind of almost endless.
The view context, I suppose, is solved if you have a view listing. You don't want the current blog post to be listed in your related articles, so you need that context. And views kind of has solved that a wee bit with being able to hide the current node. But then, if you use Layout Builder, it might not know what page it's actually on, and it gets really difficult.
Yeah. So how would we manage an override where we had a revision in multiple languages and all that kind of thing?
Because your alt text always have to be in English. Again, that goes back to that media entity issue where you can use the same image, but you need to upload it a second time because you've got a French version. It's the same image, surely. Won't change the people in it.
So it's turtles all the way down. In other words, we've got our turtles to illustrate the infinity of this problem. So that got us thinking about architecture and in particular about an efficient architecture, because the solutions that we have at the moment, quite often, if we want to transform something, we have to do that over and over again in each place. So can we efficiently reuse a transformation? So here we've demonstrated that by turning a square into a rectangle that we can reuse 4 times instead of making the transformation 4 times. So could we have our cake and eat it? Well, possibly, but there are lots and lots of different ways that we could achieve this. So the stage we're at the moment is exploring the different options and ideating, and some things that we definitely know should happen. Could we use an equivalent of a T tag for translating?
Transformer.
So yeah, lots and lots of answers. We don't want to just get AI to do all that work for us.
Or maybe we do.
So inspired by Eats, actually, a couple of weeks ago, doing a role play. I was struggling to demonstrate the complexity of this in a diagram. So I thought, let's try role playing the idea of me being a context and Gareth's going to play an entity. To kind of demonstrate what could be a solution. So, hi, entity. I'm a field.
Hello, field. How are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you.
Brilliant.
My editor would like to set some alt text for this image in my field. Okay. I just wondered if you could tell me what alt text you might have available already for this image.
Man with a grey beard and grey hair.
Oh, I want to use a different context, a different alt text for my context.
Brilliant.
Can I add another one, please?
Of course you can.
Thank you. So what that is intended to demonstrate is that I don't think it's useful for us to only store the override in the context. I think if the override can be stored in a join with the media entity, it means that all the other contexts can access it. And if we can do that, we can be efficient, because it means that we can reuse things and we only need to override things when we want to. We can use defaults where we want to. So we could tell it that it's a block on a path and store the context that way, potentially. So the media management dream, contextual overrides is part of it, but we need to consider all the other factors as well to create something that doesn't cause problems with all those other things. And coming back to this issue, well, we've kind of taken up the challenge, and we think we've got some answers. So how do we get to core? There are a couple of things that we know that we need, but what we really need is to work through having a plan that with all of this stuff kind of drawn out, and that's where we would really love help and input and comments on what we think. We want to know what you think as well.
So just
What?
these are points that we've pulled out from those issues that we were
Yeah.
just linking to. So this is what
This summarises.
Adam kind of outlined as what we need to solve. We need to review and sign off what we're going to do ultimately. That's it.
Yeah. So present the plans, present the ideas, and make sure that it meets those gates. Prototyping as well.
But I think the demo there was sort of what I was working towards to try and get that demo and the prototype.
So what other cases do we need to solve that we haven't thought about? If you're thinking of any, let us know. What other proposals do we have, and what proposals do we have that we've talked about here? And does the proposal solve them? So yeah, we want you to test those assumptions as well.
So yeah, feel free to try them out. The image crop module has a solution, which Focal Point has a solution. I've created a recipe that will install a blog with contextual images kind of set up in it. What it doesn't have is AI alt text, because then that would rely on other recipes. And I think the AI recipes really good at getting you set up. I didn't want to have too much overhead, but certainly you could get the AI recipe, install an AI on there, and then just use the image alt text module to kind of integrate into that.
I've moved these bars on a little bit since Drupal Camp Scotland, and I've shifted the architecture across because I think we've understood more than we did. But this doesn't represent any figures. These are the things that we need to do and the different expertise. So I think very little of this is actually about code and development. A lot of it is thinking about the UX and the UI so that it's intuitive for people, and the architecture, planning diagrams, thinking of all the cases. And stability and longevity matter. So if you have an individual site, then you can be more experimental and try out these things. But you're probably not going to install this if it's only got 38 sites in use at the moment across a big estate of sites. So improve what we have today. Collaborate on what we want tomorrow.
Literally tomorrow, the next collaboration day.
Yeah, exactly. Implement things in the wild. Try them, and bang the drum, because I don't think a lot of people are even aware that this is a problem. So yeah, just talking about it helps, I think, and tag Drupal Camp England in any issues.
Yeah. I put some references in.
Some references if you want to download the slide deck. There's lots of sources and other bits to read.
That's our module list. Yeah, you can feel free to get the slides if you need them, and you can get these. And then there's a bunch of next ones. This is all the images.
Do you want to get a picture?
I can give you the slides. Yeah, there's loads of issues around about overriding fields, but the top two there are actually contain a video from a UX meetup that we had where a really good contributor, Ralph, went through a lot of issues with media handling, what all the bits are broken, and he discovered more as he was going through. Oh, we edit here. Oh, no, why can't I edit that? Oh, you need to save the node before you can edit that image. Oh, that's weird. Okay, add that to the list. But yeah, there's lots of issues regarding that.
And yeah, just a few issues relating to the local.drupal media stuff. And that's where to read the discussions and research all documented about why we took decisions. And a couple of other links there to the media and the AI initiatives. So thank you. Any questions? We have time?
That too.
So just to clarify on your role, just so I can kind of understand what you're
We missed.
We're not clear ourselves, but yeah.
So that you're saying that so at the moment you have a piece of content, you're embed in a media entity
Yeah.
at the moment, which would reference the file. And the media entity would host the metadata, the alt text, and the cropping, and that sort of stuff. Well, I understood you correctly, if I don't check ID. What you're saying is that kind of the embedding of that media into that bit of content, that's where you'd like to store the overrides of the alt text and the cropping.
Yeah, well,
the relationship, so that when you want to embed it again in a different piece of content, you can then sort of introspect different embeddings and try and see the text and cropping, feed that into its future.
Yeah, I guess the way I was thinking of it is you always want a one-to-one relationship. So you need a middle table that goes, okay, in this context, I'm having that one-to-one relationship, but then that one-to-one relationship might move around depending on what the context is. So you always want more. I think we cut the demo short, the role play short.
Yeah.
It's meant to come back and say, okay, I'm a block. What do you have? And then I go, oh, wow, man with a grey hair beard. And I've also got the guy that's standing on stage with me right now. I've now got 2 available alt text. Oh, can I use a third one? Yes, of course you can. And then you need a way to store 3, but still keep the one-to-one relationship,
And thinking beyond media, if we wanted to change a meta description or a summary, it's not just a media entity, but maybe the same method of adding some more data to a field. So not entirely clear on how that looks for the different contexts, but I think what's clear is that if you only override it for your context, then nothing else in Drupal can access it. Does that help?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I think you already covered this in the beginning, but it just moved on very quickly, so I was wondering if you could reiterate it again. As I was saying to you earlier, this to me seemed like a really cool use of AI, but when I go out to the real world, everyone seems to have deliberate policies to have their alt text be only what you see and nothing contextual.
Yeah.
So what have you seen in terms of the research that this is actually better to put contextual information in the image? I mean, I think it's obvious and intuitive, and obviously you show so many examples to see obvious and intuitive. But what have you seen outside?
I guess it comes down to who's solving the problem. If you're trying to get a nice tick box in an automatic checker, you just need some text in there, and you could put just random words in there and it will pass validation, and you could probably be AAA certified on an automated checker. But when you actually sit down with users and you hear alt text being read out and there's this screed of if your alt text is too generic, then I think you have to think about why you're putting the image there in the first place, because an image tells 1,000 words. Obviously, you don't want 1,000 words in your alt text, so you need to kind of make it.
Yeah, I think I get that as obviously I agree with that. But I think earlier on the slides, you seem to have some evidence that other people do this, other universities are moving towards this, or there's papers that are suggesting this.
Yeah, there are. I think there's a Harvard reference in there somewhere as well.
Yeah, it's a lot of slides.
Yes.
We need to cut this down, don't we?
Yeah, I think
that's Princeton, and there's the 3 alt texts. The story about geology. It says, it focuses on the snow-capped mountain, 120-degree angle. The story about climbing, and it's lab group weighting. Focus is less on the actual structure of the mountain and more on the people that are there. And likewise, Harvard have talked about it as well. And these are coming from accessibility experts talking about how to actually solve the accessibility of this, not how to pass a validator, and not how to do this really easily when you have 10,000 images that you need alt text in, because getting somebody to do that contextually means they need to understand the article that the image is being used in and kind of go, okay, right, this is, Sean Ryder, the celebrity runner-up, but actually this is a story all about black grape. Why are we talking about I'm a celebrity? We should be talking about the fact that he's a front man. And that's not easy to solve. And it's not, if you're going to pay somebody to actually think about what this is talking about, what should I use here? You're paying for people, not, 20 quid a month on Claude to just run through all your 10,000 images.
I think part of it is it definitely goes beyond compliance and automated tools. For me, it's about trying to give that user something to enhance the content that they're reading, rather than, as I say, all you need to do is turn on a screen reader on loads and loads of websites, pick almost any at random, and the experience is not all that nice. It's quite robotic, and that's if people have done really well and filled out the alt text.
And it was actually, give yourself credit, Jamie. This is where my journey started, when you came to me and said, alt text can be solved by AI. And I went, yeah, it can be. It's really, really good. If you have an image with the text and you can give both of them to the AI, it can come up with, this is an article about, Gogglebox. I'm going to use the fact that this is Sean Ryder. He was in Gogglebox, and I'm going to give you some text about that. But at the moment, you upload this image and, AI might be able to figure out that it's Sean Ryder. But the likelihood is it's going to be a man in a green jacket. And that's useful, but not contextual. And it doesn't actually, it comes back to why has that image been used? Why did I choose that one to use here? Because we should have probably actually put in this list, this is a guy from Salford. Which is why we chose it.
Yeah, true. Absolutely true.
Because, I think what would be really powerful is that those papers that you refer to, those things, to see if there's anything in them where they've done research with people who are using these screen readers, and they can say why this was so much better or why it helped them.
That's useful feedback.
One of these things that's so obvious to me, I think, to everyone.
Yeah.
And then you go out to the real world and all policies are against this.
Okay.
And you're kind of okay, it looks like we need to actually prove what is obvious to us, that just saying a guy in a green jacket is not going to be helpful to anyone. But their policies will be exactly, only describe what's in there, say it's a guy in a green jacket. So it's not just a checkbox. I've seen organisations where they would be, they would mark you down for saying anything about that person. And that seems obviously bad. It must have come from how hard it's been to do in the past. So anything from those papers that show why actual users have found this stuff is so much better when you have contextual information in it. I think would be really, really, really powerful to then prove why we need this.
If only we had someone in the room that does UX usability studies. No, brilliant. And I think that might be the next bit that I kind of go off and try and actually, you're right, find that proof that this is the right answer and generic text isn't. Are we way over? Is that? We got any more questions?
I've got one then.
Go on then. Yes, I'll buy you a pint.
Well, thinking more about the architecture issue, it seems to me like I started with 6 or 7 and improved them. Drupal 8 came along, the media library, English management, bringing out the water for some vast improvement.
Yeah.
You say it's still not perfect. And it feels like to me that you should be thinking of an architecture where you have that original image, massive high-res, huge image, you never actually scan a website. And what you're talking about for image crops and focal points is really derivatives. And you probably take that one step further, and also have derivative alt text for each one of those images. So you're sort of going, okay, I want the image of the university, I want this crop, and this crop's got 10 derivatives, different focal points, and the one I want is got 500 alt text, and I'll pick the one that's the most relevant to me. And I think that's something there. I can't help but
Yeah.
reading the article and the various alt text that are being generated. And it does seem natural to me that at least that architecture makes sense, and it's still like the version 2.0 of the media library. And it's not insurmountable. Also, I'd like to comment on Gareth's role playing, because we played Dungeons and Dragons on Monday night together.
This has been recorded. It has been solved in other places as well, because I know that with Jamie, you know that the SEO module, or the SEO AI SEO module, is looking at, I think we create a field that has a focus, and it could be that we could upload this image and say potential focuses for this is Happy Mondays, Black Grape, Salford born man, drinks pop, wears green jackets. And these could be our focus. And then perhaps AI could kind of lean into that and go, okay, if the focus is Black Grape, I'm going to give you some alt text that's references Black Grape frontman, Sean Ryder. That kind of thing. So yeah, good idea.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.